Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So we are a bit into June and I thought I would finally do my May reading wrap up, I guess you could say, or just talk about the books I read in the month of May. I read 5 books in May. 5th month, 5 books, feels appropriate. But yeah, let's just get into it. I don't know if these are in order. I believe that the first book I finished in the month of May was Objects of Desire by Claire Sestanovich. I think I've already spoken about a lot of these because it's been so long and it feels like months ago that I read this book. To my recollection, wait, let me see if I have my notes because I also have my notebook. Okay, yeah, so this was a book of short stories. Very digestible short stories. I was very impressed with her ability to kind of like drop in on these people's lives and say so much with so little. I feel like these were maybe like 20 pages at the most, but I got so much from each one. And I think a lot of them were about relationships, so like couples, or one was about this girl who went and lived with this older woman for a while who was an artist, and yeah, just different like relational dynamics between people. Let's see what I wrote. Yeah, so like every character felt like they were so fully realized. And again, just like the economy of words and how to tell a story in so little pages is something I really want to learn from stories like this and from writers like this. So I was very impressed by that. I would say my one like nitpick, or it wasn't even really a nitpick, but one thing that I do have trouble with when I'm reading, or something that can kind of take me out of a story, is when the characters seem to all have like the same way of speaking, or the same introspections, or the same kind of navel-gazily. And I get that that is just like a receptacle for the author to ask these questions. I understand that, but it takes me out of it when, for instance, in a book like this, I felt like every character was so just like, what is the meaning of, like, getting so existential with each other. And it's like, I don't know, maybe it's me and like the people I surround myself with, but I don't get into like really existential, am I saying that right, conversations with people like every single day, you know? So I don't think it's a fault. I just think that it's like, it just takes me out a little bit, if I can say that. And I feel like the only person that I accept that from is like Richard Linklater, which is crazy, like it's so random, but like all of his movies that are all just like people talking about like the meaning of life. I'm like, okay, you can do it. I like when you do it, but I don't know if it's my cup of tea when other people do it. I don't know. But I think the book was really, her ability to like tell stories is very impressive. So I enjoyed reading that. Okay, so the next book I read in the month of May was The White Album by Joan Didion. Again, I do say album. I know it's album. The White Album. That just feels wrong. It's album. Like, I'm sorry. It's album. Okay, anyways. This was my first time reading this book and I really liked it. I felt like I got a good insight into Joan and her, like the things that she's interested in. I feel like she had such niche interests, and it was like very fun to see that side of her, like the things that she was into, like the water system in California, and like how, like, what, just these random things, and like gardening, or not gardening, but like she goes to this garden in Malibu, or like greenhouse, I should say, in Malibu. And I thought it was like very endearing because she kind of feels like a cold person, and like I get the vibe from other things from her that she's like very unpersonal or like removed from things. And maybe that's just like a journalistic sensibility, or like I don't know, like I just felt like very endeared to her reading these stories because they felt a lot more personal and like things that she was personally interested in. Whereas in the other books I've read, I'm trying to think back, like it's been so long, but I feel like Slouching Towards Bethlehem was so much more like these are the things that are going on in the world and pop culture, and like the big topics of like the 60s and 70s and stuff like that, where I felt like this one was a lot more about, I don't know, it just felt personal. It felt very personal, and I really enjoyed that. And in the vein of that, I also read After Henry. Okay, it turns out I did not write anything down about the book After Henry. I would say it's the same thing. I don't really remember the difference between the two. They're kind of blurring together in my head right now. But I do remember in After Henry, there is a story about Honolulu, and I read it right before I was going to Honolulu. So that was like a really special thing to read because we both have a fondness, and I didn't know that she had lived there for a while. So that was really cool. And just like reading about certain places that I would end up seeing today that are like still there, like the hotel that she was staying at and stuff in Waikiki was really cool. But I don't have any notes on that book. I did enjoy myself reading it. Okay, next one I read was Hollywood Hitman by Michelle Dominguez Green. I think I've already spoken? Yeah, I think I've already talked about this book. I did not think that this was a well-written book, and it pains me to say that. I don't like talking bad about books. I've already spoken about like how I go into books thinking that they're going to be well written, and when they're not, I feel like almost personally slighted, or like I was rooting for you. Like, I don't know. And especially because like the month before I read a book, I think it was called The Divide, and it was also a Hollywood kind of thriller mystery novel, a contemporary novel. Both of these are very contemporary, like within the time of COVID, these books were written, and I just was disappointed, and that's on me for just like picking up a random book from the library and thinking it'll be good. I just think I'm very spoiled. I really do. I think that I'm very, not even that I have really good taste, and there's so many books out there that I've never read that like if I did read them, I would think, oh my god, this is actually what a good book is. You know what I mean? But I think that I've read so many good books now in my short time of reading that I've forgotten what it was like to read like very average books. But I've said this in the past, I'll say it again. Writing a book is very difficult. I'm in the process of doing it now, and it's an achievement to get a book written, and let alone that, but also like get it published is crazy. So I'm not saying that it's a bad book. I just did not like it. And I thought that there were some things in there that should have been maybe tinkered with a little bit. My main takeaway is that I felt like it was not edited very much. But let's just move on. Okay, the last book I read in the month of May was In a Lonely Place by Dorothy B. Hughes. And I really liked this book. It took me a little bit to get into it. I think with older books, I read a lot of contemporary novels, so sometimes when I'm reading an older book, I almost feel like it's hard for me to like place it, and it's hard for me to visualize it a little bit. And so I go into it and sometimes I struggle like holding my attention and following the plot. But with this one, I think it was like established what was going on very quickly. Within the first 10 pages, I was like, okay, this is what's happening. This person is doing this. He's now re-entering into a relationship with these people. I'm excited to see where this plays out. And I don't want to spoil it because it's a really short little book that I think people should read. Like a noir mystery, not even a mystery, because it starts with us knowing who the murderer, I don't know why I put that in quotation, who the murderer is. So there's no mystery. I guess the mystery is how it's gonna play out and if he's gonna get caught. But I did feel like by the end, I was like, whoa, this is all wrapping up really quickly. And that happens sometimes. Like, it is what it is. Sometimes it's actually cool to like, well, this is the end. This is what happens. 1, 2, 3. Like, we're done, So I don't know. I did have fun reading it. I also like about that book that none of the murders take place on the page. So we don't see or we don't read any details of like any violence. The thing I liked about that is that it kind of removed you from this feeling of this person, the protagonist, the narrator of this book, is like, I don't feel any empathy for him, or like, I don't know, it removed him from the crimes that he was committing. And I think it did a good job of kind of like, when you're not thinking about that, you can just kind of be in this guy's world. And it was very familiar, or it was very similar to like Day of the Locust or Ask the Dust, like this kind of losery guy who's getting money from like some relative in a different state, and he's kind of pathetic, and he's like writing a novel, or maybe he isn't. Very similar to that, but like off behind the scenes, these like atrocious murders are happening. But yeah, that is what I read in the month of May. I am so excited for this month. I feel like I have some really good books. I was in a bit of a slump last month, and I'm still reading Transcription, or not still, I started it like the other day, and I'm halfway through and I'm loving it. I already have like a 2-page Google Doc just about this book so far, so I will have lots to talk about next month. But yeah, I will talk to you guys later, and in the comments, let me know if you read any books last month, or if you're reading one right now that you really like, and we can chat there, and I'll see you guys later.